Now this is Al. Isn't he pretty? He looks like a recruiting poster. He enlisted in 1936, and he was 17 years old, first time he enlisted. He came from a poor family that was lacked discipline and structure. His father was an alcoholic, and somehow I think he knew that to get in, he would get father figures, and boy, he got them in the Marine Corps. His enlistment was up in 1940, and then he went home the next morning, re-enlisted again, and he was 21 at that time. When he was 23, when they landed on Guadalcanal, it'll tell you how young these guys were. They called Al an old man. He was 23, and the guys under him were 16, 17, 18, and 19 years old. Now, I've got these photographs up here so you can see, you take note of, I'm going to talk about people being present and not being present. This is not a candid shot, this is a posed shot. And you can see that Al is very present here. He looks normal. He just returned from the Pacific. He's got his sweetheart. He's married to her. It's a posed photo, and he looks normal. Now look closely at this one. This is their wedding. This photograph was taken 30 days after he returned from the Pacific, 45 days after he was in hand-to-hand combat, 45 days after he last killed. He came home with no rehabilitation and no help. And he's already showing symptoms of PTSD. This isn't the only photo, by the way, that I saw this look in. He has that, what an artist, Tom Lee, a battlefield artist, Tom Lee, called the 2,000-yard stare. The Marines say that because they claim they can shoot something at 2,000 yards. If you look at Cindy, that's the woman, she looks a bit befuddled, but she's managed a half smile. And look, it looks like she wants to make contact, but she doesn't. This is the beginning of what I term the silent agreement. She doesn't ask him what's going on, and she wouldn't know to ask him. Cindy said he was different when he returned. She learned quickly that she couldn't wake him in the middle of the night. She did once, and she told me that he sprang at her throat, started choking her and seething, "I'll kill you, you frigging Jap." And she said that he woke up in time, and then he looked at her and read the horror on her face and felt ashamed. And then she felt ashamed because she thought she somehow caused it. I think shame helps start this silent agreement. And that is to never, ever, ever talk about it. This kind of thing happens in a bedroom, and they don't talk about it. And this happened over and over again with every Marine I talked. Every one of them, if they were startled, tried to kill their wives. Every one of them that I talked to. Al and Cindy's life went on, and things looked normal. He worked at Quantico at the Marine Corps base, training officers for the attack on Guadalcanal. This was after he came back from the Pacific. And he avoided answering questions when all these young guys would say, "What's it like to kill a Jap? What's it like to kill a Jap?" He'd avoid them. He continued to have nightmares. He jumped when he was startled, and when he was on the train to and from the base, he would keep his back to the wall, and he found himself scanning the environment a lot. He thought he was going crazy. And one of the reasons he thought he was going crazy is because no one talked about it. None of his buddies ever talked about trying to choke their wives. No one talked about those dreams where he was trying to get to his buddy and he was screaming and dying. No one talked about those thoughts, like keep my back to the wall. There's no reason to, but I keep my back to the wall and have plenty of room to hit the deck. No one talked about, and this is what he said, no one talked about how when you hear a car backfire or a door slam, your insides feel as if they explode with fear, yet you don't even twitch a muscle on the outside. Above all, no one talked about how ashamed you feel when this happens because no one else seems to have the problem. So the silent agreement became an essential part of his life. The atomic bomb was dropped in Hiroshima, and for some reason Al began to drink more. He drank more so he could sleep. The second bomb was dropped on Nagasaki, and then the Japanese surrendered. And he thought he'd be able to sleep now, but he couldn't. Years went by, and Al looked okay from the outside. He managed his drinking, he managed his life, he had a good job, 4 children, a wife who was a career woman, which was a big deal in the 50s. Then the triggers began. And you'll be hearing more about triggers later. It was the 1960s, and the Vietnam War began. And in his living room every night, he saw images of dead and dying Marines. And the Vietnamese resembled the Japanese to him. But more personally, his old regimental commander that he loved so dearly was a commander of the Marines during Vietnam War. He went into a rage for 2 weeks when Hirohito visited the United States. Now, 2002. It's 2002 now. 60 years after Al stormed the beaches at Tulagi, Guadalcanal, New Guinea, Peleliu, and Cindy and Al are in their early 80s. They've been married for more than half their lives. And only one of his 4 children sees him because the others have been so ostracized because of their intolerance of his drinking. And here's a vignette. And this is true. Cindy's soundly sleeping alone, and she's used to that by now. Al's sitting in the darkened living room, gin in hand. The shades are tightly drawn, and Al thinks, keep the smoking lamp out and keep my silhouette low. Snipers can't get a beat on me. By this time, he was getting delusional and psychotic. He thought there were snipers outside. But he knows that at some level there's no snipers. And Michael will talk about this again. His body is telling him he has to do something. He has to do something. He won't be able to sleep if he doesn't do something. So he gets up and he quietly goes and gets tape, and he starts taping the shades to the wall. In the morning, Cindy finds him asleep in his chair, and she removes the tape, but she does not say anything to him. So to keep his memories blocked out, and to keep his nightly demons at bay, his drinking gets heavier, and then he becomes more psychotic. He is now recluse, and he only sleeps in the daytime when Cindy is on watch. January 2003. Al was up all night drinking, always a Marine, always on watch. And he passes out while walking down the hallway. He breaks his back. Cindy finds him in the morning. She takes him to the hospital, and he's doing all right, but he's told that he has to go to a rehabilitation hospital for his injuries. But Al knows he won't be able to drink there. More importantly, Al knows that means his memories won't be blurred, and he knows no one will be on watch. And he's tired. He's lived with this for over 60 years. He enlisted at 17, a World War II Marine. I want to go back and show you a picture of Al again. There he is. He enlisted at 17, a World War II Marine. He was battlefield commissioned, which wasn't an easy thing to do back then, to 2nd lieutenant. He had 3 platoons wiped out while he commanded them. He lived and watched unimaginable horrors under unimaginable conditions. He was promoted to 1st lieutenant at Quantico. He played ice hockey and graduated top of his class at Tufts University. He lived his life in middle America. He had 4 beautiful children. He was a manager of a big corporation, and Al was tired. He gave up his battle, and he died. Al's story is a tragic one. Whoops. But it's a story of a man who suffered from untreated PTSD. He looked successful. He was an American hero. He didn't know it. And he lived a 65-year nightmare.